Hey guys, Wappn8r here. Lawsuit asked me to actually chip in some audio for this series, so I pulled together this power ranking for the Meteor Sorceress. Apologies if it's a little scuffed, as I'm not a professional with 300 plus subs like he is, and I know I do need a better microphone for recording audio. I haven't spent the time to figure out why I can't get Pluggy working, so I'm just working with the characters I have available right now, but when Season 4 is back online, I'm looking to get in my Nova Sorc power ranking, as well as a few druids and maybe a couple other classes. But for now, I figured I'd fill in with the second character I built for the Crafters League. Meteor Sorceress. Meteor Sorc's a safe, versatile fire build. A good choice to get started, as before you get an Infinity, you can still kill fire immunes because of the physical damage that's now about half the damage of the spell. It leverages its long range to remain safe and just rain frickin' meteors down onto people's heads, which can be a lot of fun to play, living out that fantasy. It's a good early magic finder. You shred through Shank and Eldritch, as we just saw, but Pit, Stony Tombs, and you don't even have much trouble with Trav once your Merc gets enough gear to tank for you, as you'll see here. But where does it show up in the power rankings? Well, let's find out. Single target. The single target with Meteor is decent. I really don't have a better word for that. I am going to kind of spoil the next section here in that the damage of the spell is pretty good, but it doesn't hit a good, huge area, which kind of draws it towards the mean for both of these. Once you start stacking up the fire damage on a stationary enemy, it can start to burn them down pretty hard. But because of what spells are synergies for Meteor, you don't really end up with a secondary skill that works to complement it if it's better at either AoE or single target, which means it is good that the Meteor's a good all-arounder in this regard. But none of your synergies end up fully synergized as well, unlike in some builds you get Firebolt fully synergized and points into it, and then it can end up being a really good single target spell for you. 6 out of 10 for Meteor on single target. AoE. Considering it's one of the marquee Sorc spells alongside Blizzard, it's somewhat unfortunate this isn't better here like you might wish it would be. The area it hits is honestly small, though it is slightly bigger than the area that result in fire with the initial impact, so keep that in mind. But Blizzard just keeps raining down and hits a bunch of times. Frozen Orb Nova just hit much bigger areas of the screen, and a lot of enemies will run out of that fire on the ground if they survive the initial impact. You really do start to feel this here once you're getting into maps, but before you really get those crazy levels of skills, like pushing 50 or so. I will admit I haven't played this with the Super GG gear yet. This Crafters League Sorc was my secondary character and only has 31 to skills, or 31 all skills, but I presume the small area hit by a spell that's further gated by a cooldown, albeit a short one, will keep this no higher than a 6 out of 10 on AoE.
I hate asking for subscribers. I think it's cringe. And at the same time, I want people to watch my videos, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite. But if you want to, the sub button is here in the corner. That corner, there, right there, right there. Now, I have to give you something. So I guess if I hit 1,000 subs, which is very far off, I think I'm only around 360, something like that when I'm recording this. If I hit 1,000, I'll do a face reveal, and you all can figure out what I look like. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? I'm recording something here, man. Bruh. Privacy. Some people.
Safety. With a long range, you can stay far enough away from enemies most of the time, but you don't get the benefit of a high-level chilling armor or energy shield passively by your skillers as you would in cold or lightning respectively. And of course you don't have the chill of cold Sorcs to slow enemies down. Nothing else special going on here compared to a lot of Sorcs, where as usual you're pretty squishy and you hang back, but you do lack the high levels of some of those other defensive skills you might get in a different element. Because you don't need to be anywhere near enemies, I can safely give this like a 4 out of 10 on safety, but no higher just because of the Sorc's low life pool. Ubers. I gotta say, I've hardly brought any Sorcs to Ubers ever, because I've never done it with close to a full 8-man squad, usually at 1, 2, or 3. I generally want someone that brings a little more utility instead of just DPS, and as well as being someone a bit tankier. You're decent enough enchant to help your allies because you're plus to fire skills. And if you have a summoner friend to hold the boss in place, you can enchant all their minions as well as dump out decent DPS at range, but I gotta say there are better options here. 4 out of 10. Gearing ease. It's a standard Sorc build, but you do prioritize raw skills over FCR and Pierce, which does make it somewhat easier to build, as the great items with those two affixes are expensive. You do need less FCR because of the cooldown on Meteor, but you do still want some to speed up your teleport. Yeah, the 105 FCR or 117 on the teleport side can be nice, but you can do fine at 63 FCR or getting to 78 on the teleport side, which is what you'll see here. You need less Pierce than the pure fire builds, because it's only about half your damage with the other half being physical. But on that note, minus physical resistance does increase your damage here, so amp can help before you get an infinity on something like a Reaper's Toll. And I'm really looking forward to that new Meteor staff that was teased for Season 5, Brimstone Rain. Up to 7 to Meteor and Fire Mastery, plus all that physical Pierce and the chance to cast Meteor on casting. Sign me up for that one. 8 out of 10 on gearing ease. It's pretty easy Sorc to gear. Playstyle Ease. For enemies that get caught up on your Merc or don't move at all, it's just brain dead. Spam Meteor on one place and you'll eventually kill him. But for most enemies you do have to learn to lead them a bit. You also need to get used to the rhythm of the few frames you have when Meteor's on cooldown that you can use to reposition and stay safer. That said, because of the drastically faster drop time, this is much more playable than it ever was back in Lord of Destruction. Overall, it doesn't require any specific positioning and works at long range. You need your standard understanding of teleport and telekinesis, but it's a pretty simple sorceress. 8 out of 10. Just note that there is a weird bug where if you have Meteor on left click, you can't go through certain doors, which you'll see here coming up. You can just switch to move only and you're able to get through the doors, but it does happen on certain doors like Stony Tomb level 3 or level 2 here, Halls of the Dead levels 2 and 3, Claw Viper level 2, Duriel's Chamber, and going up to Ariad's Summit. Total. For a total of 36 out of 60, the Meteor Sorc ends up at a solid 6 out of 10. Pretty good starter for the season as your magic finding class that grows to good hybrid damage and leads to a logical transition towards combustion for the ridiculous damage and mapping, or Firewall or Hydra for declone if you're so inclined. But you can stay on Meteor and do it just fine on that one too. So, that's my thoughts on the Meteor Sorceress. Stay tuned for the next one, coming up soon, and we'll see you then.